Hello, welcome to the Wargamer. I'll start that one more time. Hello, welcome to the Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to... Oh, it's not a stream streak, so used to saying it. It's 40k Thursday. It's ladies' night. I'm joined by my two 40k show hosts, two great individuals. Nikos. Hi, Nick.
Hello. How's it
And
going?
Tom. I'm great. Tom?
Mate, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm all right. I'm very excited, as you can tell.
Me too. I am excited. But top of the show, I'm going to have to hit everyone up with a happy birthday to Nick. It was his birthday yesterday. I think he became 25. I'm not sure. Well done, Nick. Happy
50.
birthday. How did you celebrate?
Well, I spent most of the day with the missus.
Mm-hmm.
And the night before, she said to me, because it's your birthday tomorrow, we can do something special. You can pick what we do.
Mm-hmm.
It can involve toys if you want.
Oh.
So we played a game of Warhammer in the afternoon.
Yeah. did you film it and put it on YouTube?
I have a picture, but she's promised that I promised that I wouldn't share it anywhere. So
That's fine.
Just share it after the show. It's fine.
No,
Yeah,
there
I'll
are
put
laws
it in- I'll
against
put it in
that.
the
I think there are laws against that. Yeah. Or maybe put it onto the Honest Wargamer OnlyFans coming soon.
yeah, I'll put it on there. I'll put it on there.
Interestingly, the Honest Wargamer OnlyFans is $3.99. It'll have some features later on that it doesn't initially, but more on that later.
We're just rushing to get those finished.
So, good evening, everyone in the Twitch chat. Thanks for being here. Callum, Zangor Jack, you were great. You're great. Thanks for being here. Dan Doan, hope you're well. .com, oh, nice. Ben Clapperton, JSB.com. Diadrin, hello. Sircon, thanks for being here. Scrivo, of course, the wonderful Scrivo. Tom, how have you been?
I'm good, mate. I'm still playing a Stomper, and I've played some games.
You played some games of 9th edition?
No, I played some games of 8th edition, because I'm a masochist.
Okay, well, tell me about them. What have you been doing?
I've been playing in the Scottish Tabletop Simulator League. So the Scottish WTC team has got their own Discord. Mm-hmm. And because I'm a big slut, I end up in all the Discords.
Are you trying to become Scottish?
I'm not. Why would anyone want to try and become Scottish? It's like the worst choice. Anyway,
the ETC team.
Why would I want to do that?
Yeah.
So anyway, I've been playing in their league. I've played 2 games. The first one was against Adam, who was playing. What was he playing now? Who was playing Eldar and Harlequins. And
okay.
I was running double Paladin because I couldn't be asked moving models. And all my Paladins died. By the end of turn 2, I had scored 3 points, and he'd scored 13. I'd lost 8 Paladins and 2 squads of strikes, and he'd lost 2 racks and a bike.
Oh wow!
So that was going badly.
I think go well for you.
And then I won
that game though.
And then I won 31-28.
Oh, nice.
And then the second game I played against James and his Doom Scythes and his Necrons, and he had lots of heavy destroyers. He had 2 Doomsday Arcs. He had 3 Doom Scythes, and obviously I'm thinking, right, I'm really scared of his Doom Scythes, so I basically need to spread all my characters out 6 inches apart so he can't mortal wound all of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in doing so, because I'm a special, I was going to stick 1 squad of Paladins in front and 1 squad of Paladins out the back. The problem was, because I picked a shallow deployment, I didn't need to stick the Paladins at the back. But I did it anyway because I was an idiot. And even though it wasn't attractive to shoot the stratagem at me, he just flew his planes up and death rayed them. So, because I'm stupid. So he does that.
You learn into a trap.
Well, the odds of a death ray doing a wound to a Grey Knight character in turn 1 with him going first are 0.72. So of course he kills both
single wound.
Yeah, no, getting to roll on the d6
Okay.
is what I mean. So the odds of getting the hit, the wound, and failing the save are 0.72. And he did it twice and killed my chaplain with armored resilience and my librarian.
Nice.
Wow.
Living up to the name.
Yeah, turn 1. So turn 1, the only buffs I have for my paladins are stratagems and sanctuary.
Were you not concerned that obviously because of the rise of the Silent King, Necrons are just going to get more powerful anyway? And I don't just mean rules wise, I just mean luck wise. They just got momentum now. You know about momentum.
Yeah. First thing with that, Rob, I'm not
There's a lot of good dice karma for Necrons.
I'm more concerned Rob, with my own inability to play the game compared to how many rules Necrons are going to get, because that was entirely my bad. So that was a tough game, but I came out the other side of that somehow, despite having losing all of my paladins. And I came out the other side and won that one 31-28 again, I think.
Wow. Okay.
Was it 32-28?
So in 2 games, so losing your paladin unit really early and then making a massive mistake turn 1 in the other game, you still won with Grey Knights.
Yep.
Okay, so do you think that's are you claiming that's all you, or
No,
is that all you?
I must admit it's nothing to do with me. It's all because of Lawrence's list that he wrote, and I shamelessly stole. Yeah,
that's fair. That's fair.
I wish you would stop. I wish you would stop stealing lists off Lawrence.
Sorry, I'll try to, but unfortunately, Lawrence has all the list copyrighted. So
I reckon those Tabletop Titan guys might have stolen that thunder at the moment. But I wouldn't know that. Right, so everyone today, welcome to the show. Whether or not you listen to the podcast, stay hydrated. If you are live, you guys are great. And also, big love to everyone that's watching on Patreon. Today's show is going to be a couple of things. We're going to discuss the news, and then we are going to discuss. I will hydrate. Thank you, Viking DX. We are going to discuss building armies for 9th edition. Now, as a non-playtester, we aren't privy to much information, and so like you guys, we're kind of on that day one tip of what we want to do and what we're gonna build. We're
doing this for the first time.
Yeah. So we are gonna, as non-play testers, we are gonna go through the process of talking about these as things come up, and then we're probably going to review a load of codexes over the next few months and start to re-identify how we might build armies. We obviously did the show on the missions last week, and I think we identified some stuff that we all want to talk about. So that's going to be the kind of point of today: how we're going to approach the game over the first few months, and our strategy for trying to identify what units we might take, we might build, we might buy and paint, because they're going to be important for playing in. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, all right, sweet. Okay, so big love. So up to news, and on to news first off. FYI, I know no one asked, but I'm painting up Ghazghkull Thracker at the minute. I'm not very far on him. But he is an amazing model.
I feel like the introduction of the show for the next few weeks is just going to be, hi guys, I'm painting Ghazghkull Thracker, and today...
No, I'm going to try and get him done soonish, but obviously I also launched the Super Series stuff this week, so I've been fairly busy.
Yeah, it's totally understandable. Yeah.
So that's been cool.
Are you dipping him? Rob?
I'm not going to dip him, no. I'm going to shake and bake him.
Yes, very good.
Everyone seems to be bothered about the fact he's red. He started. His base colours are red.
Still red, Rob.
Yeah,
okay.
just give me some.
It doesn't matter.
Is it black and white for goths?
Yeah, but I'm colourblind, so who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
who cares?
And also, it makes Rob play faster if there are models on the table.
I also might from this moment on perpetuate the idea that I am colourblind for all tournaments, and I'll just be like, someone will be like, that doesn't look great. I'm like, I'm colourblind.
It's red to me, so I win.
But I'm so sorry.
Just make sure you get it correct on the Wikipedia chart.
Yeah. All right, let's talk news. And obviously this weekend, Nick, I know you're busy, but the cool thing that we saw was we finally saw the Silent King model, and we've also seen the Shard of the Void Dragon. As our Necron Overlord, tell us your feelings and thoughts on all these things that we saw this weekend.
Well, my feelings are of elation when I saw the Silent King and the Void Dragon, because they are some awesome models.
Yes.
I really like the Void Dragon's. It's got a really cool pose. It kind of looks like an evil sort of angel pose. Mm-hmm. The face is really freaky as well, with it being just like a big hole with like a symbol kind of in front of it. I really liked that because it kind of reminded me of like a Resident Evil, like kind of like horrible image, just like something with where a face should be. This is a hole. It's weird. And then the Silent King, I really liked his diorama posed model. It's on like a big throne, which is awesome, with 2 little bodyguards, which I quite like. And I'm glad that he wasn't just like a big Necron, because he's kind of like the 40k version of like a Nagash, I get, in that role anyway, for Necrons being sort of like the undead of 40k. So I'm glad he's just like a little dude like everyone else, but like with so much power and influence and cool stuff at his disposal.
A personality as well.
He's like Littlefinger.
Oh, apart from in the show, he was shit.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Littlefinger.
Yeah.
Littlefinger was a badass.
In the books, he's mega cool. In the show, he's dog.
He's a bit raw. Yeah, okay,
He's
fair
a
enough.
bit, nah.
I do have some criticism to respond to. Because
Okay.
on a different show that you do, Rob, that they don't talk about 40k on, someone said
the adjacent
Necrons
show.
were boring. Someone said Necrons were boring.
I think the Falcon said that they were boring.
One of them did anyway.
Or Val. Yeah, how do you feel? Respond
It
to
was
the
Val and
criticism.
Falcon. It was one of those two.
Yeah.
So I've brought some examples of some Necron models just to respond to that criticism. So look,
Please
there's an
do.
old school Necron warrior.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he
can't
looks
see that.
badass,
Can't see
right?
it.
Around, unfortunately, Nikos.
You can't see it. I'll hold it in my face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
looks great. Like a
Yeah,
Cylon.
He's
Yeah,
funky.
he looks like a Cylon or a Terminator. He's hunched over. He's got his gun out and he's like pointing to the left. Right. This next guy, he's hunched over. He's got his gun he's pointing to the left.
He looks
He's
the
got like
same.
a Cylons type thing, right? And this next guy, hunched over, pointing his gun to the left, holding gun with two hands. He's got a Terminator face. Right, and this next guy,
Yeah.
same.
They've got slightly different
What's
faces.
boring about that?
What is boring about that? Repeating.
What's boring?
Have you ever seen a phalanx, Nikos? Like a Greek phalanx or a
Yeah.
Macedonian phalanx?
What's boring
No,
about that?
Those things are like giga cool because it's like how the whole comes together to form
Exactly.
one. You know,
Exactly.
it's not about the
Beauty is in
individual.
its unity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the things it can do together. Have you ever seen synchronized swimming, Nikos?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's what Necrons are. And
Makes me
some
cry
people
every time I watch
can't. Yeah, certain people can't appreciate the beauty of synchronized swimming of a Greek phalanx. So that's their problem.
Or bricks. No one can appreciate
bricks.
like you could, or bricks. You know, a
I
lovely
mean,
brick
some people
wall.
can appreciate a big, beautiful wall.
Big beautiful wall. Oh dear. Okay.
Oh, no.
All right. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I like the Void Dragon model. I thought that looked swish. I was
Yeah,
into that.
mate, that's so cool, dude. I love it.
Yeah.
I feel really sorry for Silent King because he finally gets his model and it's overshadowed by that beautiful monster.
Oh, do you think it was overshadowed? I think it was like what I really
Oh,
like
mate.
is I think the profile, the profile of the Necron army is going to look so, especially with the big tall walkie things. I think they're going to have like a very like a cool silhouette and shape. It's going to be very.
man.
It's
It's
going to
gonna
be
be
a very
the Unity thing again, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
because
going
you've
to
got like the endless legion of Necron warriors, little at the front.
I have to say-
and the commanders behind.
Whoever's done the
badass.
sculpts for all the new Necrons, bravo that person. Holy shit.
yeah.
They're really nice. Love
Yeah.
them.
All right, so yeah, Necron stuff looks ace. Obviously, I think most of us are into it, which is fun. Nick, you excited about getting the book? Because come on, I mean, if
No.
we cycle back to the Necron book, we were all gutted, especially you.
Which book are you talking about? The Pariah, which is kind of related to Necrons, or the Codex?
The Codex.
Or are
to
we
li-
talking about Space Wolves again?
I'm definitely
to
excited
give-
about the Codex.
So,
Then.
so to give some context for people who might be new or might not know, when the Necron Codex came out, because obviously there was only one Necron Codex during 8th edition, it came out, everyone was excited for the Necrons, they needed some love in the Codex, and unfortunately, based on tournament results since, and Nick's feelings and everyone's feelings really, they really weren't the performing army that we hoped. So obviously, Pariah came around,
No.
Psychic Awakening, jazz them up, still didn't do that. So third time's a charm, like new model range. What are you thinking?
Yeah, hopefully, because they've got more combat punch now. Games Workshop wrote the Space Marine book, so they know how to write an overpowered armor book.
So,
It's
Sure,
true.
they've learnt those skills now. Surely they can just replicate that this time around with the Necrons.
I would
Just do
also
it
like
again.
to point out here, Space Marines are OP and the Scarabs beat the bikes in the 1v1.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did.
Were they using? Do you know if these guys were using the current rules or the new Codex?
I have
rules?
no idea. I have no idea. But either way,
Because I think the Necrons had some really interesting rules. They just didn't quite play out. There was like some specific builds that were doing well at tournaments and were a bit better.
they all
A lot
looked
of
the
these-
same,
yeah.
unfortunately. The beauty was in the unity.
yeah, precisely. Yeah, it's weird how Necrons turned out like that. Yeah, it's quite funny.
All right. So other news. Oh no, sorry. You were saying like quickly about not quickly. I'm not hurrying you up there. I'm sorry. You were saying about no. Carry on. You were saying about the Necrons. What do you feeling? You feeling confident?
I wouldn't say I'm feeling fully confident because, like I say, twice bitten.
Yeah,
no,
third,
once bitten,
third
twice.
time
Like,
shy.
yeah, twice. Yeah, third shy.
Yeah, okay. Nick, Tom,
so-
you got any thoughts about it? I think that there's a lot of, because there's also a lot of new models as well. So they've like, you're still going to have the Doomsday Arcs and all the other stuff, Doomsides and things that you had previously. But they've also got like a whole variety of new models, which I hope might fulfill different roles in the army. So even if the army doesn't necessarily get like, the core power shift that we saw in Space Marines, just because of the width of the book, you might get an exceptional level of new stuff. Also, with it being a 9th edition codex, you would hope and expect that we might be seeing some of those core new changes that we expect in later books, like specific actions for your army, or specific secondaries for your army. So you'll be getting them from
maybe
detachments as well. Yeah, so you'll be getting them from day one, which is like super exciting.
All right, mate. Here's what I want to see. You ready? Because obviously we don't know any of the rules, but we do know some things. I want to see the Simon Weekly Catan span come back. I want to
explain
see
that to everyone?
3 Catan shards, the Deceiver, the Nightbringer, and the Void Dragon. And that's what I'm going to try, because I think that'd be cool. And also, it's a great excuse to paint a Void Dragon.
Big boys. Is that what you're hoping for?
Big boys.
Yeah, big boys. Okay, all right, that's
And then,
fine.
if you allow it, 3 Transcendent Catan.
Sorry, that's correct. If we could all talk about Neil Kerr. Kerr? Is Kerr? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you for subscribing for 5 months. Also, big love to Neil.
Hoggo.
Just had his kid like 2 weeks ago. Congratulations to Neil. And also, in future when we are doing book reviews, is it okay with you guys? Because obviously the width of the book and the depth of the book is normally what we talk about. And if you guys are new and you're not quite sure what we mean, width usually means lots of army choices, and depth means that there's lots of ways to adjust those army choices. So like you could stack stratagems or sub-factions on them. But there is a vote currently going on in the chat, and I wonder if you guys are okay with it, if we actually call it the width and the length, or the girth and the length of a book.
I mean, anytime the word girth is up for a vote, we're allowing it, okay? That's where we're going.
I don't listen. It's a democracy here. So you guys want girth of the book instead of width to be used on the show? Yes or no?
Yes, good.
I'm pretty sure that's a yes. Yeah.
That's a big you. Okay. All right. So does it have a big girth or a thick girth?
So from what we've seen, then the Necron Codex is going to be pretty girthy.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll have some good depth. That's
Hopefully, yeah.
Length and girth is probably,
Yeah. Okay.
There
Good.
you go.
All right. So I mean that's all exciting with things to come. Now
We need a girth remote when we get a partner, dude.
Yeah, big girth about. Yeah, everyone be like, "What book is he playing?" They'd be like, "Not Harlequins," because Harlequins are never going to be girthy, are they? Look, they're too slender. It's never going to work.
You say so? You never know.
Right. Also, how much of a book is a shower or a grower is also another way to review a book. Right.
Does that mean that if it doesn't have much depth, the book is a chode?
Yes, I feel like if we flirt with the
I know. Don't go straight in. Just straight in. Mate,
let's flirt with it.
Just straight in there.
No. Let's just allude to it. Never actually mention it.
I've killed the joke now, so we can actually use some real terminology. So you're welcome.
Yes, I appreciate that. All right. So the new news. We've talked about this quite a bit on the show. Very, very excited about the 40k app coming out.
Yeah.
And we have had some new news on that today. Now, some of you may have taken this news not well, and some of you may have taken it well. But before we get onto that, should we talk about what we wanted the app to have? I'm going to speak for me, if that's okay. I felt that we wanted an army builder. We wanted all of the rules available inside of it. We wanted a very quick searchable, like, I don't just want PDFs in different folders either. I want to type in, like, Plague Marine, and I want to bring up Plague Marine, and if it's possible, if I've bought the Plague Marine Codex, I want to see all the stratagems I can use on Plague Marine. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I want to see.
There's Jim just
That'd be
popping
nice.
up.
So that's what we wanted. That's what we wanted, right? I think. Also, battle plans to be on there as well. So our missions, maybe a way to track our games as well. So if there's a score calculator, just have it inside the app. Okay, but today Games Workshop announced what is going to be in the app, very excitingly. And
Where's the dun, dun, dun?
Okay, no,
We were all going to talk about what you wanted to see in the app, but all right.
Oh wait, what else do you want to see in the app, Tom?
So I wanted to. Oh, hello, thanks. I wanted to specifically see something that would fix the issue of rules bloat, because the issue I normally had was that I just couldn't. I was having to find like data sheets inside of boxes for units I hadn't bought the models for, just to learn what that unit did, right? So I wanted to see something that would go towards fixing that, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily. We can go into what I wasn't necessarily fussed about when we actually talk about what's in there, but that's the perspective I was coming from.
Okay. I'm looking up the Warhammer Community app, but I would like everyone to also know that I was just looking up Javicia Leslie as well. But
Okay.
that's a different side note. That was just on my Google Chrome. She's the new Batwoman, and that is fine with me.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll be Robin. So, what were you looking?
Okay.
What were you looking for on the app, Nick?
I just wanted it to happen. So
Just a thing to occur.
yeah, I'm glad it's finally happening.
Oh my god!
I just wanted it to exist, and we've finally got it now. I wanted it to be very similar to the Age of Sigmar app, because that's pretty good, where you can just search for any data set you wanted. So if you're considering a new army, you can go, oh, what are they like? And you can actually peruse the lists and kind of how the rules work without needing to borrow your mates or buy something, try before you buy kind of thing. You'd obviously, and then you can buy the extra codex rules. I like the idea of being able to search for for a keyword. That would be really cool. Hopefully that is possible.
I think that's in the list, though, right?
Is it? I don't know.
I believe so. So
I'm trying to look it up. But
I've got it now, mate. I've got it here.
The Games Workshop store, the Games Workshop site has got some sort of capture device on it, so I couldn't go on it. I was like, what the heck?
For free, you get. So I'll read out exactly what it says it has. You get to read the core rules for free, and you get access to codexes and supplements with codes for free.
So
for your subscription, you get reference all your rules fast, which it has the word reference in it, so I love it. It has construct and validate your army lists coming soon, which we can delve into. And then we have a bonus offer of all the rules from the 8th edition codexes while they're valid, are there for subscribers.
Bonus offer all the rules.
I like that. I like that they're
so,
just throwing in all of 8th edition.
Yeah,
free.
for free.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, but does that include Psychic Awakening stuff? Like,
and does it include White Dwarfs? Yeah, that's what I need clarified, really, and especially things like the what's it called, the Scorpiuses and stuff like that. I would really hope it does, but I'm not going to jump the boat on that. I just really like specifically the reference section, and I like how, because I'm someone who tends to buy a lot of my books anyway, but I can't often read them unless I take them into work. So I'd be able to get access to those codes quite easily, personally. Which means that when I'm just like doing nothing for a couple of minutes in the staff room, I can just flick through some rules, which is great.
I mean, the Age of Sigmar app is amazing because it has so many core bonus things. Like I can search for all the data sheets, if 40k equivalent terminology. I can just look up, bang it on there, no problem. And if I want the extra rule stuff, I can go on 1D4chan. But like you can buy them as well. Like I've said, I bought them all on iBooks. Can I just say that this is a great offer here, the bonus offer, all rules from 8th edition codexes, because it means that I can start with this app today, and that's my kickoff point.
Yeah, and then get the codes, and it's like you're resetting it again, like you do the indexes, because you've got access to everything in one place again, right?
However, there is a price point attached to that of £4 a month,
Yeah.
and ultimately, as we've talked about this on the show before, we talked about like if there was a subscription fee, but all of the rules were available, that would be great.
Yeah.
But this isn't going to be that.
It's just the 8th edition ones. Yeah.
It's just the 8th edition one. So as
So
the new
what-
books come out, it's going to become less and less valid. So I'll be paying £4 a month, and I'll be buying the book on top to hold. Like it's like my iBooks books that I've bought. Only I'm paying £4 a month for them to have iBooks on my tablet.
I just really like, as we were talking about earlier, like a super crackhead version where I could spend £20 a month and just get everything.
Yes, which I don't think is bad, right?
No, it's not bad. But it's a step. It's a step. And I like the idea of the specs because it shows that they acknowledge that there's an issue there.
Yeah, well, so for me, like, so if I want, so I'm going to spend £4 a month and only be able to have access to rules to the new books if I buy the new books. Now, there is something to be said about the new books being bought on the app as opposed to an iPad or an actual book, and that is if you can buy it through the app, by the way. And that is because they don't have to charge VAT on it, so they can sell it to you for cheaper, and that is a bonus. So the Age of Sigmar books are cheaper in the app than they are in other places. So that is a good thing. But I think probably everyone's major issue today is that they did promise on launch that the way to construct and validate your army list would be available through the app, and they obviously have failed on that. Like, how do you guys feel on that?
I guess it depends on what it was going to be like, because I've seen the Age of Sigmar app army list builder, and I don't necessarily like it. I don't like how the output of it is. So
Agreed.
I think does it come with like pictures and it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
really formatted that great.
If it makes
I don't
anyone
like
feel,
it.
I've never once used it, not one time.
No. So it depends what if it was going to be like that. I'm not upset about it not coming out at all because I like the way Battlescribe does it. The output that you get from that, it looks quite a lot. So you could make it look nicer, but I think you sacrifice efficiency of it.
Well, I think isn't that actually like, and I'm sure that there are some guys in the chat right now who are like front end web developers. There are people whose job it is to make stuff user friendly, and we all have been also catered to quite heavily over the past few years, especially, but probably through most of its inception, by user experience people, and it's their whole job to make us have a better time. And is Battlescribe the best user experience? I'm not sure, but it's the best user experience that I've had for building 40k lists so far. Yeah. And I guess Nick's point is super valid because obviously they haven't even yet developed the army list builder, which is important, but also. Or they haven't put them out yet. But also we don't know what that front-end user thing is going to be like, because that will make or break it for me. Because I will try it out one time, try to build a list with it, like spend a day with it, and then see how they develop it. If not, I'm going to wait with my money until Battlescribe comes out. But then I'm going to have to buy the books for rules. So am I buying that on iBooks, and then I'm behind? Like, how do I catch up? Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I know some people aren't overly fussed about it not being perfect at launch, and there's some really valid conversation about having something like having something that should go to date. When if you look at big major computer games, they fall behind schedule. Movies, TV shows, they fall behind schedule as well. And Games Workshop being a small indie developer company with a budget of several £100 million, FYI. I think the problem is if you don't catch me at launch, and if you don't make the system pretty universal at launch, maybe you fuck it all up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it.
You lose a lot of people who will initially be looking at it because it's first release.
I mean, maybe I'm coming at this from kind of like an optimistic background, just because I haven't actually used the Age of Sigmar app at all, because I just don't play the game. Although that said, I've got what's the cannon thing that the ogres have?
An Iron Blaster.
Lead Belcher.
Iron Blaster.
Oh,
Lead Belcher. That's what I've got. I've got that coming. Thanks, Ash Loftus. I don't know if he's in the chat. I've also got some Mornfang cavalry coming, and I've got a Stonehorn arriving tomorrow. So I might end up getting into those. Okay.
All right. Well, so my point was, though, I will buy physical books as they now give the codes to Skirnut Cabbage. That's a good way around it. So you could buy the physical book, and you're still part of the app without investing in the app, I guess, is
I
a thing.
wonder
But
if
then,
I wonder if people will buy the physical books and not be fussed about the app, so they'll sell the codes on the internet.
yeah, maybe. But I also I don't overly want to buy books for several
No, I
reasons.
don't.
But one that maybe people will laugh at me for is the environment.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
I
that's
know,
definitely one of the reasons why I would prefer to have a really good app. Just
yeah.
for that reason. Well, yeah.
Like
For that reason.
I know that obviously in a hobby where I spend a lot of money on plastic,
Yeah.
like,
There's a little bit of it, yeah.
Yeah.
but I would
Also, a
hope
lot
that
of paper comes from waste that people. So you chop down a tree, you'll use most of the wood for. You'll chop down a tree for the wood for furniture, and then the waste will go towards paper. And
yeah,
paper
but
is easily recyclable as well.
dead tree media, man. Yeah, like, but no, okay. So, but no matter how sustainable it is, I think I still would like to try and offset my carbon footprint as much as possible. And I know that might sound really stupid, but it is something that I'm conscious of. At least, like, I try to recycle at home and all that other stuff. And maybe it's like asinine, and maybe it's pointless, but it's still something that I'm attempting to be a part of. And I think buying the book, like, I think people are right to be a little bit pissed that it's not brilliant because
People are happy. Welcome to, yeah.
yeah.
Like,
That-
I'm a fan. I like it. But I also understand why you wouldn't.
Yeah, fair points. Fair points. Nick, what about you?
I think that I'd at least give it a try. I'm not sure if I would become a subscriber long term if you have to buy the book as well when it comes out. So they've said that obviously you get all the rules until your new book comes out. So if I'm playing Necrons, I buy it, subscribe, but then their new book comes out and I have to buy it on the app. Do I have access to it like on my iPad or whatever, which I use mostly for gaming because it's got a bigger screen or whatever? I presume it will do. Yeah, it should do because I can open that up. Yeah, anyway. I think, yeah, if it's just that £4 every 12 months, then that's like about buying 2 codexes a year, but it's that on top of the codex that I want to play. So if you're playing lots of armies, it's probably worth it. But if you only play a few specific ones, I'm not sure it's necessarily worth it. I would probably just buy my rules and get rules from other armies of mates who I'm playing at the time or from whoever.
Do you know what? Jim makes a really good point as well in the chat because he's saying writing army lists on a phone is shit. I actually quite often tend to write army lists on my computer. And maybe it's because I just do a lot of my work on my computer anyway, but I tend to do it because I've got like most of us, I would say a portion of us at least, dual screen, or if we don't, we at least put half of something on one screen, half on the other. And I put my army list building on one part, and then I'll tab to some rules or some other stuff. Because I mean, in Age of Sigmar, for instance, army building is fairly like, it's a bit like, whereas when I'm building 40k lists, I normally have my iPad open and then I'm looking at Battlescribe. But the great thing about Battlescribe is it has the rules available. So like sometimes I have the iPad open because I'm looking at particular like warlord traits or relics, and I'm going about that process. But I think that's that front end user experience, which Nick, because that's the other thing that kind of worries me. If they haven't yet even got it so I can build an army list on there, what's my user experience front end going to be like?
I think that's a really good point. The functionality of the list writing, if it's really, really good on the app, because all the rules and everything you've bought is integrated into writing the list, you can check rules there and then. That'll really help the scheming list process, I think. Whereas, like you say, if you're like phone, tablet, book, your information's all over the place. If it's all neatly done in one app that's really user friendly, then that might be a really good list writing experience if it's on your phone.
So with the phone only thing, I just got a quick question because I haven't used a tablet with apps properly since like 2014. So I don't know if this is still a thing.
It's
but
just a big phone.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because you can just take a phone app, put it on your tablet, and then it'll blow it up to like double size.
Yeah, the conversation isn't. Yeah, the conversation is about it being phone only because that means it's tablet only. The conversation.
Oh, sorry, I'm just reading the chat.
It's okay. The conversation is about it being able to be used on a PC.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, that's
like,
right.
Also, for listen. Now, I'm not saying any of you out there are stealing a bit of company time, but if you are, obviously more power to you. Steal from the corporations all the time. But while you're out,
crimes.
yeah, but yeah, when you're on your PC at work, you quickly tab out, build yourself a new army list, tab back out, tab back
I've got
in.
a great idea. More things at the end.
Yeah,
It's for Luke Morton list building strategy. You just tab out, spam the same unit 7 times, and then tab back to your work again.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So maybe it being it being available on PC would have also been a bonus as well. Either way, it's good that they're going in that direction. Let's go for that.
But if you want it on PC, you can just get. There's already PC ones out there. So do they need to fill that market?
Well, because if I'm all the other versions are free. I guess. So. Why am I going to... people are just going to spend the £4 anyway. I'm going to. Colonel Cabbage in the chat makes a really good point. Mymir, thanks for subscribing. Oh, no, thanks for donating a gift subscription. Yes, that's what we like to see. It's not just a subscription for you. It's a gift to someone else.
Yes.
You've made 2 people happy there. Thanks for that.
And you've made a friend. Congratulations.
Yeah. Like Colonel Cabbage says, for me, for work, I'll buy every single codex. And I have to. That's what I have to do for work. I buy every single one. So that £4 a month might be reasonable for me, maybe. But also when I'm writing show notes up,
I normally use... It's £4 a month as long as it's the codex is 8th edition.
Yeah, and then I have to buy the actual codex. Yeah. I don't know. It actually sounds pretty shit, doesn't it? £4 a month to build for an army list builder. And to rent your books. What if I want to stop paying the £4? Can I still access my books that I bought? Probably
not. I reckon probably not.
I think you could. Why wouldn't you be able to? I thought you could access the rules that you have codes for when it's free.
Because I think the subscription is to access the app, and if all your stuff you've bought is on the app, as soon as you stop paying, you can't access the app.
I just want to correct that because it says on here that for free you get to read the core rules and access codexes and supplements that you have codes for.
All right, that's cool.
Okay.
Oh, that's good then. Yeah, that's good. All right. Okay. All right. Well, listen, I think everyone's going to sit on a different side of it. For work, I think probably the most efficient process but I don't know. I'm going to have to make a decision for myself. The information has landed today. So if anything, that's what I like about what we do, not getting anything in advance and just knowing where we're at, is we deal with it on the same pain that all of you is listening to at home. I'm like... It feels like the most effective version of me doing 8th edition right now is to buy the physical books, to get the code for the app, invest in the app on a monthly subscription basis, hoping that it becomes the thing that we all use consistently and it's really good. But that's a big risk if then that's not the case. And when I travel to, let's say I travel to Canada for, a capital city bloodbath and I need access to all my 40k stuff because I want to read it, I'm not taking all the fucking
as well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not taking all the books with me. And what if the app's just not good enough?
This is the thing. So when I go to tournaments, sometimes if I get bored, I'll just take 5 or 6 codexes to read in my hotel room.
And yet somehow still don't know the rules for your own army sometimes.
Yep, I read everybody else's rules, not mine.
Yeah, that's okay, so Final Quick says it's comparable cost for similar amounts of features to the D&D Beyond Master Tier, which is a great deal. Okay.
Yeah, it's £4 a month isn't a bad price. I think I was expecting it probably be £5 or £8 a month.
Well, the army builder in Phase Sigmar is £1.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's 99p.
Nice.
We're talking about the same demographic here, but dodges Crunchyroll subscriptions for a £5. So they could probably be pissed at this as well.
All right, well, that's the news that's come out. That's the news that's come out. And the other news, I guess, is the moratorium on the NDAs for all of the 40k kids around the world who are content creators. So there's been a swath of content out there, like the 9 things about 40k that you need to know, and guide to this faction without points. Have you absorbed any of those or seen any of those that you guys have been interested in? Twitch chat, big time to shout out your favourites right now. No,
I haven't really been watching much stuff on YouTube or anything for 9th edition. I'm just kind of waiting for it to come out because I think it's partly because my motivation for it is a little bit for Warhammer is perhaps slightly on the low because we can't play properly at the minute.
Right.
So
You mean
I'm
because of
not
the
like- I'm
COVID
not like-
or because?
Yeah, because of like the quarantine and stuff that we've been under. Like obviously, when I'm playing regularly again, or like if there's a tournament coming up, that kind of like gets my motivation to like learn other stuff and watch other things. And yeah, I'm just waiting for it to properly come out, then start playing before I'm bothered about that kind of stuff.
Okay. All right.
I'm
Tom.
listen to some podcasts. That's about it.
I don't really watch anything anyway, mate. I'm just slowly chill painting my way through, which is really weird for me, but here it is.
Yeah.
I spent 4 days on an orc boy.
Painted it up.
4 days.
Yeah, because it was my first one since I did all the ETC army stuff, and I wanted to make sure I liked the color scheme, so I did it all properly. Mainly because you see this orc in the top of the stomper here.
Yes,
I
sir.
want him to match all the boys in my hordes. So what I've effectively done is I have painted up a boy as like a test model, so I can then copy him for the orc poking out the top.
Okay. All right. Sweet. All right. I like that we. And Nick, you have done some orc painting though. We've all done orcs this week.
Yes, I finished.
Show the camera your knob, Nikos.
There you
Get
go.
it out.
Camouflaged. You might not be able to see it.
Can't see you at all. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Is he sneaky gits? Why is it wanting me to show the screen? I don't want to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got these almost finished. Finished now.
Looking good.
I'm hoping there'll be a good unit in 9th edition.
Yeah.
Well, so that's going to be. This is going to be the point of the conversation today, because we are at the same place all of you are at the moment with the game, right? Whereas there have been some been some excellent battle reports, and there've been some excellent YouTube tutorials, but like ultimately, because everyone is playing this game in a kind of like fugue state where no one really knows the points, as they finally realize, like as will be finally realized, the final FAQs on the edition as it finally drops. So we're all in this kind of like odd place. But what we want to do, or what I definitely want to do, is I want to get on with designing my armies, deciding what armies I'm gonna kind of stick to for the first few months, and why, and what units I'm going to paint up and put on the tabletop, and why, as a sort of process. And I thought we would talk about that today, because if you guys didn't join us a few weeks ago, I encourage you to go back and watch the show that me, Nick, and Tom did about. We discussed the roles that units play inside of an army, and that we would use that to help review units later on. And one of those ones that we touched on a little bit, which now is really, really important in my opinion, is the objective grabbing role. And I'll expand more on that a little bit. So for 9th edition 40k, for competitive gaming at least, or for tournament gaming, you score 100 points. 10 points is for having your army painted, which is why Tom is now loving doing a bit of
I was doing this before that, mate. No one cares.
Yeah, but you only did that before because you won a tournament based on hobby, and that gave you the reward you needed to get hooked on hobby. And now there's like another reward now.
I think the entirety of
10 points every game.
I feel like the entirety of 2019 is evidence against that, as the Crystal Met Gun incident happened after Blood and Glory.
Was that incident after?
Yeah, it was February 2019.
Oh my God. Well,
Tommy's reformed and tried his best. Yeah, yeah. You were painted before. You were painting before it was coolly pointed. Yeah, I agree with that
Have you
as well.
seen the economics boom and bust graph?
Yes.
Well, the boom is obviously when I win awards based off my hobby, and the bust is Crystal Met Guns, and I kind of float around that graph, and you never quite know what you're going to get. Economic recession, boom, Met Guns.
yeah, but I think it was like you got the reward. It was your painting skills, and then you're like, oh man, I'm a master. I'm a master hobbyist.
I'm a master converter now. I'm going to turn the Crystal Met Guns out.
And then,
I'm really good at this.
And then you made your wings of feathers, and you flew too close to the sun.
Yeah.
And then
Hey, they were fine. I reckon I could find at least one tournament in the UK that allow me to use them.
Well, that's disgusting, and I hope that tournament never happens again.
I'll run it.
Can I just say, Colonel Cabbage has made a really good point, I think, here. I think the final word on the app isn't that the price is too much to pay, it's that we aren't sure of the value proposition. The hope, therefore, is that Games Workshop managed to justify the price they set with good features. And I think that's maybe the disappointment that you see a lot of people feeling. Sorry. The disappointment you see a lot of people feeling is because you would hope that with the launch of their big brand new edition, where we've thought all these things through for you guys, don't worry, you would hope that the app actually is as consistently good as you would expect the game to be. That being behind schedule makes you feel maybe everything else is behind schedule. Like, it's like faith. Like the game state is a bit like stocks. You need some faith in it. Anyway,
they've been hyping up. The hype machine has been going for ages, and then teasing rules every day. People want to play the game and write army lists.
Mm-hmm.
So don't tease us and then not let us do that. That's.
I mean, a good example is money, right? Money is just paper, but the only reason it works is because we believe it works. Because you have confidence in it.
Yeah. Well, so, Agreed. Have confidence. Let's bring us back to where we were. So, 9th edition at a tournament, as we understand it at the minute, you score 100 points. 45 points of those are for your primary, and 45 points for your secondaries, and it's 10 points for your painted. So we're going to just throw the painting out the window. That's cool. We assume you're painting your army. It's not an issue. Now we discussed the secondaries yesterday, and the issue with last week. And the issues with the secondaries are, for me, is that they're going to be very reliant on the matchup and who I'm playing. I might be able to spec it. Some of them I might be able to spec into my army, like having the characters that are the most valuable units stay alive at the end, stuff like that. I might be able to spec into my army, but still, Games Workshop have made a statement that they want the secondaries to be very, very hard to max out at 45 points over the game.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but. It's less controllable for me, but what is crucial is that I start winning, start scoring those primary points, right?
Because they're the same every game, regardless of matchup or what units you have.
Yes, and they are always done in the same way. I have to have a unit that gets onto an objective and holds that objective through my opponent's turn to the next turn. Now, so the conversation we're all going to have about that is that I think more than anything, that is going to define my army list writing for the next, at least for the first few months, right?
I think at least until the chapter approved thing comes out, with the tournament pack in, because that will potentially have new missions in, and if they suddenly go, oh, well, actually the missions, this is how you score primaries, then it might change then. They could throw a spanner in the works and change that, potentially. I don't know.
They could do, but currently...
But until they do...
Yeah, I personally think this is the way it's going to work, and it's going to be scored. So it works is you have the command phase, which is the start of your turn, and your unit has to have been onto it. And Tom, you and me talked about the points, right, for scoring and how you max it out.
Yeah. It was basically that you can afford to drop 3 of the criteria over the course of the game.
Well, do you want to explain to people how you do it?
So let's say turn 1, you don't get any. So you can score 5 points a turn for holding 1 objective or more, score 5 points a turn for holding 2 objectives or more, and then we'll work out exactly when you score these. And 5 points a turn for holding more objectives than your opponent. So effectively, if I, in turn 2, because you can't score in turn 1, I don't hold any of those, I can still max out if I then get all 3 for the remaining 3 turns. Because I can afford to drop 3 of those criteria in total, so long as I get the rest. So effectively, I have 12 chances to score, and you need to get 9 of them.
Yeah, I feel like that. Yeah, but effectively, so really, if you want to score 40 points, because you can only score, as Tom said, turns 2 to 5. If you want to score 40 points, then you have to, and don't forget, you score in turn 2. So that means on turn 1, I'm going to have to move onto the objective so that when turn 2 command phase comes around, that's when I score.
Right, because you score at the end of your command phase, which is at the start of your turn. So you have to put something on there, live through your opponent's turn, and then be on there at the start of your turn.
Yeah, exactly. And if I just hold 2 objectives, like for every turn over 5 turns, which as the game goes on and there's less and less units because like I'm getting blasted off the board, by that girthy book, then that means that like that's going to get harder to achieve later on. And therefore, and even if you did do that, that would still only get you 40 points and would max you out your 45. So it sounds harder than it is. And we looked at some of the missions last week, actually. In fact, just while
also while you're looking, I can add something as well, because if you look at the hold more than your opponent, that's actually insanely hard to do, right? Because you are having to hold more than your opponent straight after your opponent has finished their turn, so you don't get a chance to blast them off. But they do get a chance to stand on as many objectives as they need to deny that point.
Yeah, so I've put a map up on the screen for everyone of Scorched Earth. So that's one of the missions in the core book. And this is that there are 2 in each player's deployment zone. So you can score your 10 points every turn. That's pretty simple. But there are 2 objectives in No Man's Land, not in the centre, but to the right and left of No Man's Land. And in order to go and get them, I'm going to have to move on to them and survive my opponent's turn. Now, terrain might become crucial in this element. There might be a bit of terrain that,
especially with the 2 in your deployment zone as well, because if you're not able to even hold 2, you're losing 10 points. That's huge. Especially if you are taking the view that it's going to be incredibly easy to hold both objectives. Well, if you then lose it for your turn, that's a massive gap.
It is. So this is what. For me, it's going to define the game and define how I start to look at units, because I'm going to need... So my initial thought is I need incredibly survivable, tanky units. So I was talking to you guys beforehand about how I'd like to play Death Guard. So the 2 armies that I'd like to probably play in 9th edition, Death Guard and Orcs. Now, Orcs can't really put super survivable bodies on an objective, but... I don't think so anyway. However,
it depends.
Yeah,
maybe, but I don't think there's necessarily obvious choices for us.
So let's say you have like a 200 point currency to spend, right?
Yeah.
You are managing to put durability on there just because you've got so many wounds to tank it first, right? Mm-hmm. So how am I going to explain this? For your thanks, Nikos. I'm just trying to work out which words I use. So, in terms of comparing them to other books, they can probably tank out more on objective for a 200 point spend than most other books, right?
Do you want to try and expand that out?
Okay, so let's say I've got 200 points to spend. I can get 28 orcs and park them on an objective, right?
Yes.
Eldar. What could I make out of my 200 points that's going to make it durable to sit on an objective? Maybe 1 wave serpent and some guys inside the wave serpent, right? Mm-hmm. What could I get for Drakari that would do that? Maybe 2 venoms and some guys inside the venoms, or I take some Talos or something, right? Mm-hmm. But for a lot of these books, how easy is it realistically to shift 28 orcs? Now, I get your point, though, because what we're saying is if you are taking a unit that's specifically designed to do this, you could spend fewer points and get a durable unit, right? Whereas orcs, if you're spending 70 points, for example, putting 10 orcs on the objective isn't helpful. Whereas other books can actually do something quite well with those 70 points.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I hear what you're saying. So, I actually think that there's loads of ways to unpack it, right? In the so you could go for 1 or 2 ways, like Tom's discussing. You can either go for high survivability, Death Guard, Terminators, Custodies. You can go that route. Not many bodies, that route. Or like Tom says, you can go max wound cap. Just be can you clear 28 wounds off this objective? Let's see how you do. As a kind of process. Mizia, thanks for subscribing. Oh, yeah. And also, love you tons. I hope you're well.
Great hair.
Yeah, that's Christian. He's great. I think the metaphor horde versus... but the problem is, Tom, is the game seems to be very anti-horde. We've obviously got blast
particularly with the blast weapons, yeah.
But you got blast weapons, and then you've also obviously got the coherency issue as well. I'm not saying it's a massive issue, but it could be more of an issue. So it feels like hordes.
It's a limitation for hordes. You can't string them back as easily to get buffs that would make them more survivable, like the orc pain boy or other things like that.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, so I think that there's an issue there, which I find fascinating. Like I'm just picking it out in my head, and then the other one is that I think is a good call, which you've just picked up on, Tom. Is I put a wave serpent with some dudes in, throw that on the objective. They spend a turn blasting the wave serpent, yeah, and
then drop out
out
into the ruin. Yeah.
yeah, then I drop out my 10 dudes, and then hopefully those 10 dudes survive. So transports might get a look back in, because they're really a big wound sink before you can get to my meaty object. Go on.
I don't know if there's other units like this. So similar to that, I think town piranhas could be something. They were the unit that I thought of when we were thinking about this, because they're a vehicle, so they've got quite a lot of wounds. So they're tough, and they've got quite a lot of wounds, decent save or whatever. But piranhas also, when they die, poop out 2 little drones.
Can the drones score as well?
Well,
yeah,
they're a unit.
Okay. I just know there were some rules that couldn't, like certain units couldn't score. I thought drones were one of those units.
I don't think so.
Not as far as I'm aware. But yeah, that's kind of similar to the transport idea. You've got to kill something and then something else. I think this could be. I don't know what category horrors would fall into. They're probably similar to the boys, but their splitting rule with reserve points could be a thing for scoring objectives.
Yeah. So I just want to raise a point here specifically, because I might be jumping the gun a bit here, and if I am, please feel free to call me on it, because then we can just go to something else and then come back to this in a second. Yeah. But I feel like we've had in the game, specifically in ITC and specifically in North America, where we've had a lot of our data from, thanks to the 40k stat center, we've had missions that revolve around you have to stand on objectives for a while. And how many of those lists incorporate units that are specifically put there to go and stand on objectives? Now, the only examples I can think of that, can I just finish the point? Because the only examples I can think off the top of my head are for lists who are specifically building towards getting the engineers secondary for your ITC.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's because the points differential was nowhere near the same. Like if engineers was 15 points out of your big cap, this is 40. This is half of your available.
No,
points.
I'm not just talking about secondaries though. But so was holding and hold more.
Yeah, but this is significantly. I feel like I haven't actually run the numbers, but I think this is bigger. And I think like if you're not trying to hold those objectives, especially because let's go through some of the ones that you guys can see on the screen there. So the one that I'm currently looking at is Scorched Earth. 4 pillars has only got 1 in your objective. 1 in your deployment. So and then it's got 2 in no man's land. So if I want to score 5 points to sit in my territory, but I have to go out and go to the other point straight away. And the important part is, it's not that I go there and score, because in ITC you scored when you got there. Yep. This I have to
around, right?
I have to stay around, and I feel that is a big change, and it really defines what we're going to see. What we're going to see taken. I feel like this changes up my army composition far more than I think anything else will. Okay. And that's how I've been thinking about it. Now I'm open for that to be challenged. I feel that's how I initially.
Can I challenge it? Is that all right? So the first point we were talking about points differential, we're saying, oh well, it's not the massive component that it and I see it wasn't a massive component that it is now. If you are going into an ITC event, specifically one of the bigger ones like the LVO, the LGT, and you're looking to win the event, you need to be winning your games by about 36 to 40 points, which means that you need to be scoring all of those hold more and bonuses pretty much, or at least a good portion of them. So you do still need those points differentials. As for sticking around, a lot of the games revolved around going first. If you didn't go first, you were going second, and therefore you're going to get shot off the table potentially early, which means that if you're going first, you do need to be able to stick around to be able to get the hold more, because you score that at the end of the battle round rather than at the end of your turn. And I'm also going to add why I think that you weren't seeing them as much, rather than just presenting the problem and just completely ignoring it. I think the reason that you weren't seeing them as much is because you can force your opponent into a position where they physically can't target those units in the first place. For example, I could take some grots and park them in the objective, and you could say, oh Tom, the grots are just going to die, they're really, really squishy. But what if I have just a bunch of shit in your face that if you don't kill it, it's going to kill you? And therefore, you can't prioritize those grots with your guns. You have to prioritize those other things. And I feel like with the size of the boards decreasing as well, there's a potential to get more of that pressure down onto the board, even though the points levels are increasing, which means you're not going to get as many models, because also it means that you can't fire as many guns back. It means you're able to exert more pressure on your opponent to force them to not target those units, because if they don't do it, their army's going to get eaten.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mirror that sentiment as well. I think that's also a key part, because if you also want to score 15, Now, some of the battle plans, missions, have got that you're more kind of are just going to swing a flank is what you're more going to do,
Rotate
and
the ball.
and you're going to argue over the center ground. However, some are, if I want to hold more, I'm going to have to go aggro into my opponent. And I think that that's also another point to raise as well, is I think that survivability also needs to be obviously mixed with that offensive nature. And that's why I feel like things like Terminators, things that like can land and survive a turn, and pose a threat. Like we talked a lot, Tom, about Terminators before, because you're like, lol, what you can do, land and then chase me around the board. It's like, well, now in the future they're going to land.
Also, boards are smaller, so you can't,
Yeah, but they're going to land B98. If they get that charge in, they're threatening that objective, but most importantly, they could hold that objective in their opponent's lines for a while. And I think that's something to note. And I'm actually really excited about looking at how you build those armies. But you also can't forget that you need to defend your back lines, which sometimes hasn't been much of an issue. Like normally backlines were defended to protect units, not to protect units to stop them from being shut down and shooting, as opposed to defending backlines because that's where the objectives were.
So I'm going to go into a quick point about planning now as well, because we've already talked about how you can afford to not score 3 of the objectives, assuming you've got 4 hold 1, 4 hold 2, and 4 hold more, right? So you can afford to not score 3 of those. Well, if I'm looking at that primary mission, I'm just going to go, well, I'm going to score hold 1 every turn. I'm going to score hold 2 every turn, so that's 8 points. And then, which then translates into 40, because it's times 5.
Sorry, just in case anyone's unaware, Tom is talking about the ITC missions.
No, I'm talking about the primary missions now from the new book.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry.
If you're getting confused, then we need to explain it anyway. So it's fine. So we've got primaries, which are hold 1 or more, hold 2 or more, hold more than your opponent.
Can I just say that I'm really not okay with how you're explaining it. Like for me,
that's fine. Well, I'm trying to explain it, but I just started him and you just butted across me again.
Yeah. So if you hold 1, you score 5. If you hold 2, you score 10. And then if you hold more than your opponent, you score 15. It's not.
But they're not necessarily commutative, right? Like I could be holding 1 and be also holding more than my opponent.
Well, you score 15. That's actually true. Yeah, you could be holding 1. Yeah.
So so the way I'm treating them as individuals. Okay. Obviously, in order to score hold 2 or more, you also have to score hold 1 or more, right? Okay. In order to score hold more than your opponent, you also have to score hold 1 or more, right? So I'm treating it as.
Actually, while you're saying it, I'm just going to quickly check to make sure the wording on it, because I'm pretty certain it's not 2 and more than your opponent.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. If you could check that'd be great. Yeah. So effectively, you can score each one of those 4 times because you have 4 turns in which you score, turns 2 through 5, right? So if I'm looking at that and I only need to score 9 of those 12, is that making sense so far? By the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just using the best app for army building on my phone.
Best app of 2019 and 2020.
Yeah, with Google Drive.
That's a different app. Okay, fine. So I am basically looking at, okay, which 3 of those can I just avoid scoring, just so I cap? So I'm just looking at it saying, through turns 2 through 5, I'm going to hold 1 objective or more, so that's 20 points. I'm also going to hold 2 or more, that's another 20 points, so I'm on 40 points. And then I only need to hold more than my opponent once to cap. I could let my opponent hold more objectives than me 3 times, and they're still probably going to cap. So all I need to do is, if I focus on just trying to kill my opponent and getting secondaries in turns 2 and 3, then on turn 4 I try and jump onto an objective to get hold more for the next turn, then I've capped and I've spent so much time thinking about secondaries. So I feel like the primaries aren't going to be where you're going to win or lose the game. It's definitely going to be the secondaries.
Oh, so you actually think it's got less to do with the primaries?
Yeah, because I feel like the primaries are super easy to do.
Okay, all right, okay. I don't feel that they're going to be that easy.
That's fair.
Because it's so different to ITC. In the ITC, I went on it and then I scored it. In this, I go on it and I have to survive there. Just as an example, I could put a wave serpent on an objective, yeah, right, and then I can charge it with a unit of Orc boys. Now the Orc boys aren't going to kill the wave serpent, yeah, right, and the wave serpent's not going to kill the Orc boys, but the Orc boys objective secured. So when it comes down to the command phase, yeah, those Orc boys are just stopping you from scoring the objective. Like so,
yeah.
so not only do you need to hold the objective, you're also going to need to screen objectives. Like
Yep.
I honestly think like it's a really fascinating, like I really like. I've talked about this a lot. Obviously, I love how much the double turn mechanic affects Age of Sigmar. This, when I initially read this, I was like, I hate this. This sucks. Scoring the command phase of the next turn. I don't like it at all. But ever since I've been thinking about it, I'm like, actually, there's so much counterplay that I have to predict my opponent doing.
I feel like there's a lot of list building again, though, right?
Yeah,
that's going to be cool. So let's say we go into list building. What do I need? Okay, I need 2 units that are probably going to stay alive. To hold these objectives so I can get these consistent points, right? Okay, I'm going to build 2 wave serpents into my list. Now I need to stop my opponent from shooting at those wave serpents because I don't want to spend 400 points a unit on something to just sit there, right? So I'm going to take 2 wave serpents and then I'm going to take a bunch of stuff in my army that's just going to pressure you so you can't physically target those units. But what if someone deep strikes? Well, maybe I have to take some points out of the pressuring section of my army to build some just shitty screens. Just in case I need them.
But not everyone can pressure, can they? That's a big point.
Oh, what do you mean? Everyone can pressure.
Oh, can they?
What army can't put any pressure on their opponent?
I think put them in their deployment zone, which is maybe what I'm thinking you mean by pressure.
Oh, well, okay. So what I mean by pressure is forcing your opponent to target something, right?
Right. Yes.
Or putting something there that's a threat.
So I put Morty down, and I'm like, well, you can target Morty or all these Nurglings, your choice. And they're like,
I mean, we can even talk about swooping hawks of pressure. And they're not pressure because they're scary, and they're not pressure because they are heavy damage dealers or what have you, or durable, are going to walk into you. They're pressure because they force you to take a screen. Yeah.
Okay, fair points. Yeah, so everyone wants a breath. Let me just say, we have just been informed by Games Workshop that all accounts have been allocated to the Indomitus box sets to 45 maximum. Due to this, we will not be taking pre-order requests at the product on Saturday. This is quite a shock to receive, and we're extremely disappointed in receiving the news. Oh no, wait.
I'm really confused on what it says.
Wait, they've sold out. They've sold out of Indomitus before they could do pre-orders.
Really?
Yeah, we're finding that out live.
Oh my god.
We've just been informed that all accounts have been allocated.
No way.
Due to this, we will not be taking pre-order requests at the product on Saturday. This is quite a shock to receive, and we're extremely disappointed receiving the news.
Where, Jim, can you tell us where that is, dude?
I think that'll be Canada, won't it? That'll be in Toronto.
No. Like where they posted that announcement.
Oh, it's a great point. I'm not sure. We'll cycle back.
I just want to make sure it's not fake news. That's all.
They sold out on Tuesday. Has it been up for pre-order yet?
It was. Was it?
Isn't it on the 11th?
Yeah, it was on this Saturday. The 11th was the pre-order date.
What? That's coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the pre-order date.
Okay, no problem. We're I hope to God that Element Games have plenty of copies. Okay, don't worry about it. We'll come back to that after. If anyone's got any info, dump it in the chat while Tom's making his point. Go on.
I've made the point. Sorry, I'm now distracted.
Okay.
What are we talking about?
You were talking about pressure. Yeah, you think.
Oh, right,
see,
yeah.
see what I really like about the new objectives as well, is that I feel like it's going to mean that I can split armies to some degree. I can have units that can go aggro into my opponent's deployment, which I feel in some cases might be beneficial to do so, because there's also that swing factor, Tom. So let's say there's just 4 objectives, right? 4 objectives on the board. If I can punch them off an objective just for a turn,
yeah, that's huge.
right, then that's them not capping as well. And I think
or it forced them to hold more for 2 turns.
Exactly, and I think that there's definitely some almost like suicidal, like it's not going to survive 5 turns, but there's some squad base, big unit of Death Shrouds. Let's talk about that. Maybe a giant unit of Mega Knobs, something that's going to go in, smash a bit, be in the fight, maybe just make them have to contest an objective as I'm just sat at the back, just like lobbing custom Mega Cannon shots or lobbing the Plague Burst Crawler shots in. I'm just doing that, and I'm just aggroing their lines, and then they've got to clear that off. So I think that there's a really nice counterplay of you can do some really aggro stuff, but also do some backline defensive stuff. And I think gun lines are going to struggle quite a bit, and that's where my head is at. I also worry that it makes the list of units that are viable to play shallower than we had previously. Like those Orc Boys are an example. I think 30 Orc Boys is still a unit. That's always going to be a thing. We don't know points, but I'm going to want to hold those objectives and hold on. So I'm looking at high toughness, right? Killer cans.
Yeah. Do we think it's going to pigeonhole us into taking different roles? Like we've already spoken about, you need 2 units just floating around taking objectives, then you need screen, and then you need pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think there's... you've got any more to say? Sorry.
No.
Okay. Nick, what do you think?
I fit
Well,
about
is it-
4,000 words there.
I'm just like, what is pressure? Just like because we talked when we talked about roles, it was like, you know, damage. Like, it's just that pressure is units that are going to kill your opponent's stuff. So I'm just a bit confused by that.
I'm talking about pressure as being something that forces your opponent to do something, and killing your opponent's stuff is one way to apply pressure.
But weren't we calling, is that the same as a bully unit that we've talked about before?
I mean, but that's what bully units effectively do, is apply pressure, right?
Yeah. So examples of bully units would be a big blob of Death-Shroud Terminators landing in your lines.
Yeah, and they can apply pressure by just walking up and being annoying.
Shining Spears.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also the really interesting thing about the missions is that I'm going to have to move on to those objectives in the first turn.
Yes, you are.
Like, because I need to start scoring at the beginning of my turn too. So it feels like that there's a really big bonus to going second. Or is that like? Hold on, let's just work.
I know where you're going, and I know where your brain's gone, but I don't think that's correct.
Yeah, help me out. So
I think you're thinking is that, if you're going second, then you get the jump because you score at the start of the battle round, but you don't. You score at the start of your own command phase. So if you're going second, you've still got to go through your opponent's turn.
You still have to go through your opponent's turn, but what it means is if you go first, you have to commit onto those objectives first.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean, Rob. So
Yeah.
I'm going first. I know I need to get onto objectives, so I put my units there and I shoot my opponent. But during that turn, my opponent's first turn, while they're sitting waiting for their turn, most of their army is probably going to be hiding.
Yes.
So I'm not going to have much to shoot at in my first turn, but I make my move, I show my cards, this is where my units are going, and then your opponent most likely is hiding, and then they can jump out, they know where you've gone, they shoot you, do the most damage they can possibly do to you, and then they reveal what their strategy is. Is that kind of what you meant?
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant, but then I just went straight to turn 5, and I was like, well, actually, if you're the player who goes first, you make your very last move to score in turn 4. Yeah. Is that right?
I think it's going to depend a lot on your army as well, though, because let's say I'm running 80 June Stealers with a double move with the Swarblord, right? I still really want to go first, even if I can't shoot things, just because I can run almost up the board and make a big net in front of your army, so you also can't push up and threaten those objectives before you have a chance to screen out.
One more time, Tom. That was a bit fast.
Was it? I thought I was a bit slower that time. Okay, that's fine.
Sorry.
So what I said was, I still think it depends on what army you're going to use, right? Because if you're using 80 Gene Stealers with the double move from the Swarmlord, because he allows your Gene Stealers to double move, then you want to go first so you can just run up and pressure your opponent's objectives and stand in front of their army like a net, so they then can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now I see. Sorry. So yeah, I think that your army is going to decide the tempo. Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to say. So because I think that's actually something that might become more relevant in how armies might also play as well. Some armies might have like a slower tempo. So if we take that example, like Tom said, of we'll just take 2 examples: a Deep Striking army and Tom's Gene Stealer Cult army. You know, that army that double moves first can just fly into your opponent's lines on the first turn. Has got a very fast tempo. It's engaging very quickly. It's fast. Whereas there might be some other armies that are going to wait till turn 2 to go. And what will be interesting is strategizing how best to deal with that. Like, because once they've applied, if you can knock them off and clear that pressure, you can drop in later, which I think is quite, which I think is quite interesting. And I know some of that is alpha strike and beta striking, but I do think it's different because they've taken out scoring from that first turn, and I feel
more time
like
to maneuver.
Yeah, you can counterplay a little bit. You can just be like, well, actually, I don't want to make that first turn committal. And so you might have 2 armies hold off quite a lot on the first turn and then engage later, which I think is, again, really fascinating. And you've got to but you don't get to understand how that tempo might be being set if you are the person who goes first, because you might be like, is he going to go KG or is he going to go in? And so going first I'm just talking this out with you guys, so I'm not sure if I'm
you're fine.
resolute in this.
That's
I'm
what
not
it
sure
always
if
is. It's good.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm resolute in this decision, but going first feels like, other than just being able to nuke your opponent's army, which is always an option in 40k,
Yep.
going first feels like there's a disadvantage because you have to almost commit to the tempo of the game that you're going to play.
Yeah, you set the tempo. That's not always a good thing.
So you could
Sometimes
you
you gotta
could
be
be like, I'm being really conservative and I'm going to sit on one objective and shoot some stuff. Then your opponent goes, haha, well, I'll sit on 3 and then take the advantage.
Yeah, then you have to engage. But like Valerie's saying in the chat, but if you are going first, you can go to the middle objectives and force the enemy hand. In some cases, and maybe you just decide to flood all 6 objectives. And I also feel like, do you not think that good units to have? So the general consensus of stuff we've seen is this feels more like a shooting edition than a combat edition.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, because I think about things like your Shining Spears, Tom, because I think about your Shining Spears going over, whomping an objective, or a unit that's on an objective, holding it, and then they're there scoring it. So then they're doing the double job of they've knocked the unit off.
That's what I mean.
That's what I'm trying to say. I feel like that's why I feel like I'm kind of in this Death Strand Terminator mindset where I'm just like, they go, they hit the thing, but like they kill, and then they hold. And I feel like that there's a thing there, and I'm not saying that's definitely the case, and different armies will play in different ways, but I do worry that things like Genestealer Cult's infantry, let's pick those as an example, they're just going to get blasted off the board, right?
Yeah. Well, again, it depends on what you're using it for, though, because of the context. Like we were talking
to hold an
about
objective,
pressure.
I think is my point.
Right, but it depends if you're applying pressure and if your opponent has room to shoot them. If they do, then yes, they are getting obliterated. But it's about what Genestealer Cults work, because you can drop a bunch of scary units in that are going to murder your opponent's army and then take all their objectives as well.
Yeah. So,
Yes, but assuming your opponent can go and shoot that unit, if we take that assumption, what units are going to be good at that?
Big shout out to Darren in the house. Big love to you. And it does look like the news that we're getting in the Twitch chat for everyone is that independent stockists have sometimes ordered more than the allotted 45, but independent stockists have then been told that they can only have 45. Now, good news for Games Workshop. It sounds like effectively what's happened is they've sold all of their Indomitus box sets at launch, which is pretty fucking huge for them. Like, they are laughing all the way to the bank, which is great for those guys. Sad for people that wanted to get copies, I think. So, Nick, make sure you get yourself a copy for your Necro. You're not getting one?
No, me and Scrivo are splitting a box, and I might be splitting one with Andy as well. So,
plus,
I think Scrivo's got our one.
Plus, also, there's going to be Necrons on eBay all day because they're boring, right?
How dare you? You want me to show you my 10 Necrons I got out again and how each one is even more exciting than the last?
Big shout out to Canabadari in the chat, by the way. So, do you think there's anything more Nick, how do you feel like it's going to affect your armies? Has it made you think through anything else, looking at different units? What are your thoughts?
So Orcs, I'm clearly picking up some Mega Knobs because they've got a 2-up armor save, which ain't bad. And they've got 3 wounds each. They're not toughness 5, which I'm a bit sad about. I still think Orc boys could be okay because your opponent might not necessarily. I think maybe because the blast weapon is new, maybe in my head I'm thinking, oh my god, everyone's going to have loads of blast weapons and it's going to be awful for my boys. But it might not be the case. They might not have any blast weapons. And it's still quite tough to shift off 30 boys. And the change to the morale phase might mean that even if they're on their own somewhere, I don't need to necessarily spend CP to save them. But yeah, definitely looking at units that are going to be more resilient. I think combat units could be quite good because they're very good units to go and kill a unit that's on an objective and claim it from them in that turn.
Because it does 2 jobs, right? It clears them off the objective and puts bodies on the objective, which is what you have to do anyway. Otherwise, you have a really weird sequencing where what you have to do is you have to somehow get bodies on the objective and then shoot them off the objective, which is a weird set of sequencing that I don't see happening, right? Like, whereas if you've got combat units to clear off objectives, they're doing
Yeah,
the job.
it's
Like,
2 for the price of 1. It's like, I've
yeah,
got this one, and you don't anymore.
yeah.
And
I
I've
don't
also
even.
got those ones over there with my units sat on.
Yeah, so I don't. I feel like combat units do better because they hold the place. Like they get on it and they hold the place. Maybe I'm wrong. Now there is some conversation. Some of the battle plans or missions they do say that you can hold the objective and then you can leave. Like you've tagged it. That's on one of the missions. So you tag it and you leave. But I'm not sure if all of the missions are you tag and you leave. Because if they are all you tag and you leave, then that's very, very different and changes the shape of the game. You know, I think
Just on that
makes,
very quickly though, Rob, you still need
Yeah.
to screen it though, because the amount of deep striking that's going to be in 40k is going to be enormous.
Yeah,
Like you have so much access to it, right? So even if it's tag, I mean, you can't. It's not like I don't know how much it is in an AOS, but you just tag an objective and then you walk off because your opponent needs to push through the center to get to you. In 40k, if you walk off, someone's just going to drop a shitty squad on it, and then it's no longer yours.
I think those are really valid points as well. I was thinking with the smaller board space, like I was thinking about my Sindonian Dragoons for Admech. You know, a squad of 3 or 4 of them, depending on points. Like they can go off, maybe clear an objective, depending on what they're fighting. They're a bit meh, and they got worse with the upgrade, the change to +1 to hit. Because they used to be able to get +2 to hit, but now they can get +1. But maybe still they can go in, you know, with some fire support and clear an objective. And then they're a big base size to screen out deep strikes or other units that are going to try and jump on them. So they're quite a nice. Well, the problem is that they're pretty paper and they might just get like blitzed.
What toughness are they?
Toughness 5, with 5 wounds each, and they've only got a 4 up armor save and then a 6 up invuln. But they are naturally -1 to hit outside of 12 inches, so they're okay. But it depends on the points, right? It depends on the points. But also, like, you need a fairly dedicated combat unit to knock those guys off an objective, is what I think I'm trying to say.
Yeah. It's not like they're not a bunch of guardsmen that are stuck there.
Yeah, they're not. Anyway, for me, I feel like the primary. Tom is on a different side of it, which I feel is great for you guys at home, because you get kind of a different viewpoint maybe sometimes when we all have different thoughts. I feel like the primary is going to be really defining how I write my lists going forward. I'm at least going to identify the units in my list which I'm going to want to go and grab those objectives with. They're going to be the ones who do the job. It's not just going to be any old unit, right? It's going to be, these are the guys that are going off to do this job. And so I think that's going to... number one, I like that for the army list writing.
I feel like I'm going to be planning to capture 2. So I'll try and design an army with 2 little bits that are going to be sitting on objectives.
What, so that are quite tanky? Is that the idea, or...?
Yeah, I think so. Whether that be just a really hard-to-shift tank that can sit on an objective at the back and survive, or some infantry or something.
I'm just
probably aiming for 2. Not like, I'm going to capture 3 a turn with 3 different blocks. I'll probably aim to capture 2 a turn as like an average, and then with other units that are doing other roles, maybe if I'm on top, score other objectives around the board.
Yeah. I'm just going to see what's good and have a play around. I'm going to try and score 2 every turn and then use everything else to hold more by kicking my opponent off rather than scoring more.
Yes, I can see that. I feel that there's also like a strategy, because different armies don't have necessarily the girth to finally decide what they want to... some of them don't have the inbuilt survivability that maybe we're talking about. Obviously, Marines do, Custodians do, Death Guard do, Thousand Sons do, probably. And
I feel like one army that jumps to mind when you say that to me is things like Harlequins or maybe Eldar, but mainly Harlequins, because I'm sure their survivability was generally based on minuses to hit or something like that. Or invuln saves.
Yeah. So, and Largy makes a good point in the chat. He says, I feel like your opponent will be swapping primary points throughout the game, and the secondary will decide who pips it in the end. I don't know. I feel like that there's a huge swing factor that I can initially take into effect straight away with the primary. I do like the idea that maybe the best strategy, though, is to be very conservative and just aim for 2. And just be like, that's what I'm going to do.
So.
Okay, that's very interesting because that immediately pulls back from that idea that it's super important, and then just what do you then how do you then focus in on you focusing on the secondaries? Is that the idea? So you're almost like disregarding the primary game, aiming for 40 points, and then playing secondaries.
Well, I think when we looked at the secondaries last week, there was also some secondaries that you can combine with the primary. So maybe you look at building your list to focus on 2 primaries a turn, but then also focus on 1 or 2 of the secondaries that combo with the primaries. So as long as you're doing the primary, you're getting one of your secondaries, and then there's 2 other secondaries that are matchup dependent.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So baking it into your army list early doors. Okay, I see what you're saying. And then being like, okay, now I'm just picking stuff later on. Okay, but then, I mean, the missions sometimes, the missions are also such a nice collection of, like, odd shapes and different, deployments for where they're going to be. I feel like there has to be some mobility. But it's honestly an interesting conversation. I'd love to know what everyone else thinks as well going forward. Tom, do you think you got anything to add to this?
Nope.
Okay, good.
What about some Eldar units that you think might be fit for this kind of role, for scoring primaries?
For scoring primaries? How am I going to think about this? Rangers are always kind of a thing, but it depends on what you want to do with the command points, I guess. Eldar aren't too command point dependent anyway. I think Wave Serpents are generally fine, because what you can just do is you can just pressure the center of the board. I mean, just Night Spinners in general and Fire Prisms, right? Because you've got so many targets that you need to deal with, otherwise the Eldar are just going to like kill you repeatedly. I'm talking about Craftworld Eldar specifically, by the way. Eldar are just got so much damage output that you need to deal with that, and therefore if you are taking something like a Night Spinner that can just like hide behind a building and then still hold objectives or something, then you're generally going to be all right. You just don't want to be spending points as a general rule into things that aren't damage dealing.
Okay.
I think Falcons could be good though. I want to see what points are going to be like. I think Falcons are underrated.
Artillery units. Yeah. I think artillery units, just in general, units that can shoot what they can't see. So you can have a little fire base of some artillery that sit on one of your home objectives, because you always get at least one home objective, don't you?
Yeah.
So you could maybe plan to have some artillery that sits on one home objective, and that's always going to happen every game.
I actually think that's
shoot. They can always shoot stuff on the board because they can shoot what they can't see. So it doesn't matter if it's hiding or whatever.
But also, like, so if no one's aware, like an 8th edition strategy, if you will, or like oftentimes, like there was a lot of screening that was done in 8th edition to stop things hitting your stuff that's shot, because if you did that, it couldn't shoot and it would have to fall back and all those other things. I'm not saying that was the strategy, but that was a strategy that you saw in 8th edition, because previously you weren't able to, if you were locked in combat, you weren't able to shoot unless you had pistols. But now, like, that isn't a valid way of shutting down that offensive gun line. In fact, there isn't really a valid way of shutting down the offensive gun line other than shooting the thing. So that has been taken out.
Blast weapons can't shoot into combat, though.
No.
So I think that's the one exception, maybe.
Okay, so there's some counterplay there, but like, so effectively the game is more shooty because you can't shut the shooting down as well as you once could. Like, and some armies and some playstyles revolved completely around just shutting down people shooting. That was their modus operandi, effectively. But now that's gone, so there's more output generally coming from shooting than maybe you would see. And if you knew, you've got no reference point anyway. But effectively, that like it's going to be there, and there's going to be I think more available in shooting, and it's going to be. I think about my custom mega cannons. Like, they always would get pipped. Like, if you could get into the custom mega cannons, I was like, this is game over. Like, I can't fire. But if they can all just keep firing into combat into you, they blow up most things pretty effectively. So, although I think they're blast weapons. Oh, that's still fine.
Potentially.
Oh wait, blast weapons can't shoot into combat, can they?
No.
Oh no, they're blast weapons. So yeah, I'm still screwed.
Are they all blast weapons?
The Smasher Gun is, and the KMK is, which is all I care about. Really.
They're the only decent ones.
Yeah. So Trelly, thanks for subscribing, by the way. But the train will block some of the shooting. Yes, it will. It will block some of the shooting as well. Anyway, really fascinating conversation. I'd love to know what everyone else thinks. And I do feel like the game my army list writing is going to be very different when it comes to the points. And I thought it'd be a good conversation to have initially, especially as I don't know, I'm feeling a bit convinced by you two. I thought I'd go into it being like, I want them 45 points, and now I'm like, maybe I just want to hold 2 objectives and just play around, and that's actually really different. Like, I hadn't expected to go there, but thanks for taking me there.
I feel like, I think aim for like a more manageable chunk of those primary points, but then if you're on top, then you can reach for them.
I agree.
I feel like, rather than planning I'm going to get 45 every time, and I'm going to build my list to get 45 every time.
You can't, because you can never guarantee that, because in order to get 45, you have to hold more than your opponent, which is entirely down to board pressure.
Which I think is most of the time going to be 3 objectives, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I wanted to build. I think what I think I was trying to get at was I want to build a board pressuring army, an army that goes in. Like, I think splitting the army in 2 a little bit feels quite nice. Like backline artillery units or something that does some shooting, and then something that goes in and does the punching. I think is. Feels like how I want to build it, but not all the armies can necessarily do that. And so, and not all the armies even played that way previously. You didn't really need to. You could just sit in a reroll bubble and just like keep hammering shots, which is kind of cool. The best plan is not to have a plan. Okay, I agree with that. And I wonder what everyone else's like units for grabbing objectives are going to be. I'm feeling Death Shrouds, Mega Knobs. Those are my ones. Maybe some killer cans in a little squad, 5-man squad.
Some bubble checkers. Do they ignore what I'm saying?
Cans.
No, they don't. Yeah, killer cans.
Killer
I just think
aren't that resilient.
Toughness 5, baby. A 5-up invo save. 5-up invo save in combat.
Really? What is that all from the
KFF? The KFF's never been FAQ'd. It's in combat 2 based.
Wow.
They've got the Gungan shield.
You got to get them across the board, and I don't know. If you get, but your killer cans can't screen your mech, your big mech as well. I don't think, unless he's right in the middle of them all.
Yeah, it'd be fine. It'd be there. I mean, I could also take a Gorkanaut with them, and stick it on top of that. Or a Wazbomb all day long. Anyway, so the Twitch chat are saying, these are their suggestions: Alarus Custodians, homed in, Racks in Venoms, Ravagers or Reapers, Grotesques are some of the suggestions here. And Undead
I think Grotesque and Talos will be pretty good at this.
Well, if their points don't change significantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, Grotesques would be excellent. Good combat, shoot stuff off. And Talos, again, same thing. If both of those are still reasonably viable, they'd be excellent for holding units and killing stuff. They're really good examples. Yeah, always take the Gorkanaut, never ever. All right. How dare you? And then, so I guess Honoured June Callers due to being tanky and having massive base, mobile walls, basically. There's something to be said there, I think.
Paladins, Tom?
Nah, I'm not putting Paladins on the objective in sitting barrel game, dude. That sounds like a waste. I'd rather run them at people and be
but what if it's your opponent's home objective?
Oh, then that's fine then. Yeah, totally acceptable. Yeah, I'll do that, yeah.
So, with that said, I'd love to know, if anyone's watching this back, I'd love to know what your units are. Obviously, you can leave it in the YouTube comments below. So, final thing, I guess, is the thing we've just heard about them selling out with Domitus. Have we got much to say about that? It seems fine. What's everyone... I mean, like, they're just going to lose... They're going to make loads of money. It's great for Games Workshop and good for us as gamers. You guys got any thoughts about it? Either of you two?
What, the fact that they've run out... They've already sold out already?
Yeah.
Well, it happened before with the Sisters of Battle, didn't it? Is it just because they've sold so many, or they haven't made enough? Because of the factory being shut down and stuff like that?
I reckon they've sold so many. That's what I reckon it is. Yeah. I reckon they made a fucking shit ton, and they're shocked.
Yeah.
Infinitely splitting pink horrors sounds good. Good luck clearing 50.
That sounds like something.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like that could be a good unit for jumping on objectives and just sticking there. Because also the change to how morale works made that better. Because you could go, oh, here's 10 pink horrors that split into 20 blues and then more brims. But if loads of that happened in one turn, you could have a massive morale check that you would obviously pass on a 1, be fine. But anything else, you could lose the whole unit unless you pay 2CP. But now it might be you might not even have to pay that 2CP, fail massively, but not actually lose that many models because it's only running around a 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that unit sitting on objective just got better because of those changes, I think.
Yes, true. That's really true. I think that makes loads of sense. Yeah, I think the morale change is actually significantly better for hordes than we maybe first realised.
Yep.
When you actually think it through. Okay. Yeah. All right. Sweet. So yeah, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Before next Thursday, when we're back for the 40k show, you guys got any 40k plans?
I think I might be playing some more games in the Scottish League, and I'm going to continue painting. That's about it.
Okay. All right.
Well,
Nick?
I might be playing a game IRL, maybe even 2.
Oh, 2. Nice. I've got 2 lined up, which is exciting.
Did I both against Nikos?
No, only one against Nick.
Okay.
But I've got 2 games.
Maybe 2.
Yeah, 2 games of 40k between now and next, which I'm very, very excited about. Maybe more, depends when I can get them in. I can't stream them because they're in a bar that's closed. But that's fun, and I'm looking forward to that, which is cool. And then the pre-orders go up this weekend, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But we still don't have. But we still don't know the points, so we're still waiting for the points to come out on the 27th.
25th, isn't it?
Wow. Okay, so it feels like do you guys feel like it's a long wait to find out what the game is actually like?
It does,
Yep.
yeah.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're in the same boat that you lot are in. So we'll take this together.
Mate, it'd be so much nicer if the General's Handbook also wasn't coming out, and therefore at least one game was okay.
The General's Handbook's out. We're sorted.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, officially in a few days, but it's out. It's out on the internet now, so we're all good.
But that ruined it for everyone.
It killed my buzz until I realised that you can't actually kill my buzz for the games that I love, and it would be weird to be able to do so. Looks like I was very late to the party. We'll go back and watch it. Oh, thanks, Trelly. Thanks for being here. There will hopefully be some... yes, because we're waiting for everything to come out from the chapter approved, right?
Yes.
That's what we're waiting for.
Whatever it's called now, yes.
More missions and points, right?
More missions and points. More missions and points. The question is, will there be more points than missions or more missions than points?
Ooh.
Or all 3.
Yeah, all 3. All right, well, it's been a pleasure talking to you both. Thank you to everyone who's joined us in the Twitch chat. Primark, Undead Ben, 6.5, Colonel Cabbage, Final Cookie, Crouch Warrior, Chemex, thanks for being here. You guys are great. Thank you to everyone on Patreon. And, of course, thank you to podcasters. Please stay hydrated. Do you guys got any shout-outs you want to make before we go?
Yeah, I want to make a shout-out to Tom and Scrivo this week because last Saturday they gave a shout-out to Gozzy.
Oh, there you go.
All right.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
I'd like to give out a shout-out to Gozzy. There you go.
Nice.
Donaldinho says, I think I bought more 40k rule books than played games. Yeah. Big love to you guys. Fuck all you buddies. I'm going to give a shout out to... Oh my God, there's so many people this week.
So many people. But there's only one person.
Only one people. Roll a D100 and
one
I'm going to
give a shout out to Dayton from the Party at the All Points, which is an interesting podcast if you guys want to listen to it. Lovely, lovely fella. But I also want to shout out all of you. There's too many of you to name. All of you are great. Have a great day. Look after yourselves. Thanks, guys.
Try to love each other. And if you can't love each other, just
love yourself.
Just fight on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, don't forget, the Honest Wargamer, an official endorser of girthy books.